Alright, so we got this old non-Hemi Dodge Ram. What year is this? 2000. And the customer complaint is, he wrote on his envelope, it barely crawls. So we'll get a seat of the pants diagnosis first. Because from the way he's talking, it has 0 power. Starts, the money light's on, because that's one clue. I guess we don't even have to drive it. It's skipping like crazy. Let's just see what code it has in it. PO 138. And that's it. Well, like I said, there ain't no test drive necessary with this one. It sounds like the exhaust is plugged. It's me. I'll just take a pull up here. It's just about lunchtime. I haven't even cleaned out my bay yet. Figure we can at least maybe get a diagnosis on this. Yep, that was it. And that has 0 fuel pressure. She don't like me now. Yeah, I don't want to flood it. So what we'll do is we'll zip through some data here real quick, just make sure we're not overlooking something obvious, but it appears to me, or I guess seat of the pants, first thought is a plugged converter or plugged exhaust. I just want to make sure, yes, our coolant temp is right on the money. Just want to make sure there's not something, you know, really silly going on. Let's see. Can you guys see that? Hopefully, okay. Well, that's nice to see the added misfire counters right in the data stream on a Dodge. Alright. You know, these older ones, not a whole lot of data to look at. Alright, so everything looks pretty legit there. We will take, let's see, I'm going to grab some data pits here for us. We'll see, it's been sitting a little bit now, see if it'll start. Alright. Long-term fuel trim is pegged right out. Pretty common to see because we're going to have MAP engine, low manifold vacuum, so it's, you know, ultimately going to be making it run super rich. Let's see. However, bank 2 sensor 1 is pegged out at 5 volts, so that's kind of interesting. That must be the O2 sensor code that we had, PO 138 or whatever. So I'm giving it some throttle here. It's all the way to the floor. Back off it. So yeah, pretty classic sounds. You got the hooting under the hood, the woofing sound. Try to back off the throttle here. Okay, so it stays running. MAP engine running rich. Of course, we do have an oxygen sensor that appears to be shorted the voltage. I think that's what our code's going to be. Yeah, 90% certain we likely have a plugged exhaust based on sound and experience. Let's just see what that code is. PO 138. I think it's O2 heater or O2 short to voltage, something like that. Read O2 sensor heater, bank 1, sensor 2, short to voltage. That's interesting. That says bank 1, sensor 2 heater. When we go into data stream here. Oops, you son of a monkey, hit the wrong button. click happy once in a while. Yeah, it's actually bank 2 sensor 1. It's one that's actually shorted. Well, not shorted, but you know, it could be open circuited, I imagine. If it even has it. That we would have to look. It may not have 2 upstream O2 sensors. This may actually be a federal emissions vehicle, which is probably where I'm going wrong here. So let me just back out here. I did not pop the hood. I just assumed this is a California vehicle. We'll go automatic. We'll go federal. I don't know if the federal had two downstreams or not, though. We could always get out and pop the hood, I imagine, but it's not going to really benefit us any. Oh, we got a heck of a glare on there for you guys. Yeah, it's probably a federal vehicle. Which would be nice, because if the catalytic converter is plugged, we'll be able to buy a federal converter for it, which in New York State we have to abide by CARB laws. If it's a CARB certified vehicle, we got to buy a CARB converter, which sucks. So I bet if we get out and check, this is probably a federal vehicle. But our diagnosis is basically done. Well, that was an easy one. Don't really need a scan tool. I like to just flip through scan data, just make sure there's not some parameters, you know, way off, coolant sensor or something like that. But this is pretty classic sound, pretty classic symptom. These 5.9s, they were notorious for the lower intake, the belly pan on there going bad. They'd start eating a whole bunch of oil and then ultimately end up destroying the catalytic converter. So I think so many miles are on it. Okie dokie. 223,706. She's probably had a good life. Hopefully we breathe a little more life back in it. I'm gonna go eat some lunch. We'll 100% diag it and take it from there. So I did look. This is a federal emissions truck, and it is an 18-year-old New York State truck, as you can tell by the amount of rust. So we're gonna have to bust out one of Grandma's tricks. Typically, to do a back pressure check, we can do it a couple ways. We can either pull a spark plug, use an in-pressure transducer. That's pretty crusty under the hood, so we're not going to do that. You can pull an oxygen sensor out and use an adapter like this one here. It's a snap-on adapter S6149 O2 sensor adapter. Measure back pressure. However, you touch that O2 sensor, it's going to break. And then you can go to plan C, which is Grandma's trick, which is a piece of brake line. So it's just a piece of 1/4 inch brake line. I cut it off, chuck it in a drill, sharpen it up on, well, both ends, one end a little sharper than the other. And I grabbed us a drill, I think probably a 1/4 inch drill, I think it is, that I grabbed. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna poke a hole in the pipe. Now people are gonna be like, oh, it's got a hole in the pipe. Well, chances are our converter's plugged anyways. It needs to get changed. Plus, it's only gonna be a 1/4 inch hole. You just take your welder, tack it back in, and Bob's your uncle. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna poke a hole right here where it's easily repairable. So we got a hole right there, and then we're gonna take the sharpened end, line it up, and if you drive it in, it should seal tight enough. It's not gonna come back out. You get a hammer. Grandma taught me this a long time ago. If I can get under here, I can hammer. Okay, so that one's in. It's good and tight. Should whistle pretty good. Now, don't get burned on this. Experience tells me that 90% of the time it's a converter. However, I have done exhaust systems that have been plugged. So drill another hole downstream of the converter, and then you can measure differential pressure between them. all I did is just hook a pressure gauge to it, just my vacuum, low fuel pressure gauge. Chances are we're going to see lots of back pressure. Anything usually over 3 pounds with the engine revved up is too much, but I assume we're going to see some pressure here at idle. I'll go start it, you guys watch it. Oh yeah, that's at an idle. 8 pounds of back pressure. Yeah, 15 pounds, tad bit excessive. Getting a little better. Must be the idle came down. So you can hear that sucker. These hooks are pretty good. I'll just stick it on the back pipe here. We can see we've got no pressure there. But clearly, the converter one solid. Or, ow! That's hot, baby! Solid or thing near solid. That's it, folks. Nothing more to diagnose. I'm going to take and weld them holes back shut. So you just pop them pieces out and then a couple of tacks with the welder. Like I said, it's on either side of the converter. That's going to get changed anyways. And if you're wrong, just weld the hole shut and move on. Not a big deal. A lot easier than trying to, mess with pulling O2 sensors out if they're looking nasty and crusty, which they are in this. I doubt we're going to get the job on this one. I'm going to quote it out, and it is federal emissions, so we don't have to use a carbon converter, which is pretty nice. Unfortunately, where the exhaust, comes together behind the converter, it's pretty rough. That's not going to survive. It could if you wanted to just jerry rig it back together, but in the shop, I can't. I can't go down the road and all of a sudden bag of exhaust falls off. So I'll quote him on an exhaust system, let him make the choice, and we'll move on. If we do get the job, I'll bring you along on it. How's that sound? In the meantime, subscribe, Patreon, find us around, and just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.